Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about passion, software engineers, and new hires. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, what is an example of a passionate software engineer and how do you think about that sort of thing? And the short answer is usually this is a very useful thing, but it also has it can spark questions regarding your personality and the way that you do work. It's not just all good. Let me explain. So this is a fair question. An example of a very passionate software developer is the sort of individual who, like, this is just now me kind of projecting what most commonly is associated with software engineers and how, like, their passion. And this is, in my opinion, not the only way to show passion, but it is the way that most people expect you to show passion. And the simple truth is that they want you to work outside of work hours. If a software engineer expresses that they read books about software engineering and they do software, like they do coding in their free time, things of this nature, anything that is like outside of work activities is that stuff that you don't really have to do your work is stuff that people are going to associate with you having passion. And I am very, very, very sorry to say that in many cases the industry has started to move from, oh, this is a very nice thing, to, oh, we kind of expect this. Now, I will be fair about this. Even I will say that I would expect a junior developer to have a little bit of this. I will explain why as well. I don't expect someone who does professional grade software development to necessarily have extracurricular activities outside of work and like read books and so forth, because at the end of the day what really matters is that they have the skills to actually produce the results. However, for a junior developer the situation is slightly different, and the reason why it's slightly different is because they don't actually have the skills to produce good work where they are, which means that at least I would have expected a decent software developer to understand that and to really work towards getting those skills as quickly as possible so that they can actually produce some type of value. So when we're talking about junior software developers, this is, I would say, even a little bit more important than if you're talking about more senior experiences that have a few years within the industry. But a great example of a person that is this way, I would say, is a new hire that I interviewed him just a few days ago, actually. Now, the first thing this man does, or this guy does when he comes in, is basically he just has a big smile on his face, really open, strong body language, which is something that I picked up immediately because I'm one of those freaks who looks at communication in this sort of way. And he, I think the first thing I said was, dude, if I didn't know any better, I would have assumed that you were a daycare center teacher or something like that, because you have the body language of one of those youth center attendees where people just want to hug you. That sort of body language. Like, he was, in many ways, I think he must have been the most communicative and open candidate I've ever interviewed. And this is absolutely, these are good things. Like, he shows body language, he's giving away signals and things of this nature. He's not sitting by himself or he doesn't have a very closed body language, which is a very good thing. And then he starts describing the things that he does in his spare time. He's interested in the philosophical aspects of software development. He was extremely interested in things such as games development, where he attends these small game hackathons where a group of people get together and they build some small games in JavaScript or Unity or C++ or Python or something like that. It doesn't really matter. You're just hacking things together, right? And then he gets his girlfriend in on it as well, where she sits together with him and makes some art for a 2D game, and they build it together, things like this. And then of course he shows a value system, things such as saying that, oh, well, at my previous job, and this is also very good, he takes concrete examples of how things have been working for him at his current job, what's working, what's not working, etc., 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 right? And talks about processes, pair programming, mob coding, test-driven development, things of this nature. Now, I have already done my due diligence on this guy, and I already know that he's a junior profile. Now, the reason why I could tell, I didn't really have to check that out, because usually this is the way it goes. A junior developer who is truly, truly passionate about something, they in normal cases, they will list things that are important to them, and they are usually these shallow, low-level things that you will expect a senior developer to have a much more in-depth understanding of. Examples, as I said, is that, oh, they're passionate about mob coding, they're passionate about unit testing, and so forth and so forth. It's very rare that you hear a junior developer start talking about that they're passionate about having a strong foundation within the team, and that they have good communication skills so that they can ship on time, or that they're passionate about establishing work processes that increases the overall velocity of the team, or things of this nature, or that they have a good work situation where they have an influence over the work that they do in such a way that stakeholders actually respect their opinion and they can work in an autonomous fashion. They will express this, like that these are things that are good, but usually what they focus on, because of their passion, because this is the thing that usually, well, it's the thing that juniors usually get passionate about, is these concepts that helps them improve their own work. That's the focus usually. They're really passionate about making their own work better, or, you know, these practices that the industry and the internet is telling them is the most important thing, right? So all of these things are really, really good things. Now, here's the bad part about that, because there is a bad part. And this is something that we spoke about, of course. And I said, I think overall we should hire this individual. It's the reason why I think that we should hire this individual is because he said one thing that was extremely important that made me kind of feel like, yeah, there's no real risk here. I probably would have probably hired him anyway. But there was one thing that he mentioned that was very strong, and that was that he stated that in recent time he's had a little bit of feedback given to him regarding that he can be perceived as negative and have maybe he has a strong opinion about everything, maybe too strong. Like he's been having issues with communicating and bending to other people's will and things and being pragmatic, if you will. And he's been trying to work as much as possible on this communication. And this is extremely useful for me to know. This is, and of course, our interview is designed to figure out these sorts of things. And because I asked him basically, how do you deal with a situation where I don't agree with you and I have seniority? What are you going to do? And he explains, which he gives the correct answer, and he say, well, I will try to really hear you out, and then I will try to explain my opinion, which is that's the correct thing to say, because just because I have seniority over him within this domain, that doesn't mean that I'm right. He needs to have the guts to speak up, and he does, or he claims to anyway. And he also understands that there are more perspectives, which is a perfect answer. And then he goes on and saying that, and then hopefully we can arrive at a good solution together, and like we compromise. And that's exactly like the sort of communication skills that he needs. Because the problem with being very passionate as a developer when we're in a work interview, and I can promise you guys, take this with you, because I promise you that there are more than a few companies out there who will think this way. If you have really, really high levels of passion and strong opinions, and even if you work like your absolute ass off to be as great as possible at software development, you can be interpreted as having an almost religious mindset regarding good practices, and this is bad. Why? It's very simple. Because if I'm dealing with, let's say he had not said any of this, and all I can see is like the craziness in his eyes, because I know exactly what the craziness looks like, because I had it myself. That craziness indicates that this individual may cause a problem if he doesn't get his way. He might be frustrated. As I said, all it takes is for me to come in, especially when he's a junior. I can be a big douchebag and I say, no, we're not going to do that. And there's nothing he can do to stop me because I have seniority. And my manager is going to trust me over him. If push go well, I'm not in this case. It wouldn't be that, but I'm trying to build up a picture here. I could do that, and if he gets frustrated over that, or let's take a lighter example. Let's say that I create a situation where we're discussing in a normal fashion, and he does not get his way. If he starts getting upset about that, he might cause other issues. He might cause social issues. He may not be able to be pragmatic, which means that that's going to affect his overall work. He's going to take issue and get emotionally upset if he doesn't get to follow this passion to its peak. This is something that both me, like I identify this, I explained this to my manager, and the CTO that was present was also concerned about this exact thing, that he may be too passionate to the point where he can't be pragmatic about software engineering. And I'm sorry to say to all the people out there who may be thinking this way, that you should follow all of these best practices religiously. This is not how the world works. The way the world works is that it's great that you have passion, but you have to have a leveled head. You have to be able to take a step back and understand that, oh, okay, today I'm sorry to say that we need to hack this together, but let's create a follow-up story or something like that, and then commit to going back and fixing it later. That may not never happen, but this is the way a pragmatic mindset works. So what I want you to take away from this is that an example of a great and passionate developer is usually measured by the vast majority of people in the industry by how much time do you put into your craft. Are you taking extra courses? Do you have side projects? Do you read about coding in your extra time? Do you talk about different concepts such as mob programming, functional programming? It doesn't really matter what topics it is. It's just things that are they are additions to your overall understanding. These are indicators that you are a passionate individual, and you communicate this by showing, this is just a side tip, guys. If you want to communicate that you are very passionate, it is very important that you show that through body language, or you show it through the enthusiasm that you show for these sorts of studies. As a junior, this is probably the most important thing you can do, because if I can see the belief or the fire in your eyes when you're talking about these topics, then I will believe you. If you just sit there with a monotone voice and say, oh yeah, I really like games development, and then you never say anything about it, then I'm not feeling the passion, I'm not feeling it. And that's very important when you're in an interview. Lastly, remember that being too passionate and not expressing that well, sometimes you have to cut some corners, or sometimes you have to compromise. If you're not expressing that, you may trigger the warning flag in some people's heads that, oh, this person might be a problem, become a social problem in the group if they don't get things the way they want. And that's not someone we want to deal with. Have a great day.